In the quiet village of Nsambi, tucked between golden savannas and rustling banana trees of Uganda, lived a girl named Amina Nalyul. She was 17, bright-eyed, and known for her laughter that danced through the mango groves like birdsong at dawn. Amina had dreams, not the kind scribbled in dusty schoolbooks, but ones painted with the shimmering lights of Kampala. She wanted more than farm chores and fetching water. She wanted freedom, glamour, a life where she could wear heels instead of sandals and sing in nightclubs, not in choirs. Her parents, Mama Ruth and Baba Dan, were humble farmers who believed in the power of education. They had sent Amina to a boarding school outside the village, selling part of their land to afford her fees. "You will be the first girl in our family to go to university," her father often said, pride swelling in his voice. But to Amina, university felt like a detour on her path to stardom. Her heart beat to a rhythm louder than lectures and textbooks. It pulsed with Afrobeats, city lights, and the hypnotic promise of fame. One day, during the school break, Amina's cousin Jacqueline came to visit from Kampala. She wore braided wigs, fake lashes, and spoke with a city accent. She talked of clubs with flashing lights, music that never ended, and promoters looking for fresh, beautiful faces. Amina's eyes widened. "You could be a star," Jacqueline whispered, scrolling through photos of young women who had made it in the city. That night, Amina stared at the cracked ceiling of her dormitory and made a decision that would change everything. 2 weeks later, she told her parents she was attending a holiday study program in Entebbe. Instead, she boarded a matatu to Kampala with a small bag, her school savings, and a dream burning in her chest. She didn't know the city well, but Jacqueline promised she would help. "Just trust me," her cousin said, flashing a too bright smile. Kampala was everything Amina imagined and more. The streets buzzed with motorbikes, vendors, and skyscrapers. The air was hot, thick with perfume, dust, and the scent of roasted maize. Jacqueline took her to a hostel in Kabalagala, a neighborhood known for its nightlife. It was cramped, noisy, but to Amina, it smelled like freedom. Within days, she was taken to Club Inferno, one of the most popular clubs in town. The lights were blinding. The music pulsed through her ribs. She wore a tight red dress Jacqueline had lent her and danced like her soul was on fire. That night, she met Brian, a club promoter who said she had the look. He promised gigs, exposure, and money. "But first," he said, "you must come to the after-party. That's where the real connections are." The after-party was held in an upscale mansion in Muyanga. There were drinks, rich men, and women in glittering clothes. Amina, nervous but eager, tried to fit in. Someone handed her a cocktail. "Just to loosen you up," Jacqueline said. Hours blurred. Her vision swam. She remembered music, laughter, then darkness. She woke up in a strange room. Alone. Her clothes wrinkled. Her phone missing. Confused and scared, she stumbled out and found Jacqueline waiting outside, avoiding eye contact. "You'll get used to it," she mumbled. "This is how things work here." From that day, everything changed. Amina was no longer the girl who danced for joy. She danced for survival. Nights turned into a blur of clubs, men with cruel smiles, and hollow promises. Her innocence faded like a sunset behind city smog. She tried calling home, but her number was blocked. Her parents had discovered her lie. One night, she caught her reflection in a cracked mirror behind a club's bar. Her eyes, once so full of hope, were tired, rimmed with smudged eyeliner. Her smile was gone, replaced with a numb stare. "What have I become?" she whispered. But she couldn't go back. Not now. Not after everything. She was in the city of lights. But all she had found was darkness. The days turned to weeks, and Marembe's absence began to weigh heavily on the hearts of those who loved her back in the village. Her grandmother, Mama Nafula, once a vibrant woman who hummed tunes as she stirred her millet porridge, now sat in silence under the mango tree each day, her eyes scanning the distant road. The chickens clucked around her feet, unaware of the grief in the air. Back in the city, Mirembe's world had taken a nightmarish turn. After the terrifying events at the elite party, her life spiraled. The man who had once promised her fame, Pascal, had vanished. His number was unreachable. The apartment she had been given was suddenly taken over by new tenants. She was kicked out with nothing but a torn suitcase and a fading makeup bag. Homeless and desperate, Mirembe roamed the streets of Kampala. The bright lights that once dazzled her now seemed to mock her. She slept near taxi parks, wrapped in a kitenge cloth she had found in a dustbin, using her bag as a pillow. Hunger clawed at her belly like a beast. Sometimes, she begged for leftover Rolex from street vendors. Other times, she traded whatever she could for a plate of pasho. But worse than hunger was the shame. She couldn't bring herself to call her grandmother or even her best friend Akello. How could she explain what had happened? How could she admit that she had been used, discarded, and left to rot in a city that had once sung promises to her? One rainy night, as she huddled under the broken shelter near a wino market, a group of older street women approached her. They were survivors of the same trap, girls who had once believed the city's lights could change their lives. One of them, Mama Sanyu, took pity on her and led her to a cramped, smoky room in a backstreet alley. There, Mirembe learned how to braid hair with cheap extensions and mix perfume oils to sell by the roadside. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave her something she hadn't had in months: dignity. For a while, it seemed like life was beginning to rise from the ashes. Mirembe saved what little she could and began planning a return to the village. She wanted to apologize, to rebuild. But trauma doesn't leave quietly. One evening, as she closed up her makeshift perfume stall, a sleek black car pulled up beside her. The tinted window rolled down, and there he was, Pascal. Dressed in an ivory agbada, with dark glasses masking his eyes, he smiled like nothing had happened. "Long time, Mirembe. You disappeared," he said, his voice honeyed but cold. Mirembe froze. Her hands trembled, the glass bottles in her basket clinking together. "What do you want?" she managed. "I'm just here to offer you another chance. This time, it's real. Lagos, South Africa. Modeling. You're beautiful, you just weren't ready before." His words were knives wrapped in silk. "I'm not that girl anymore," she whispered. "Leave me alone." Pascal chuckled. "You'll come back. You all do. The village. It won't forgive you. But this city, it always takes you back." Then he sped off into the night. That encounter shook Mirembe to the core. That night, she had nightmares, visions of her friends who had vanished, of haunted rooms filled with cameras and strange men. She woke up in a sweat, breath ragged, heart pounding like a drum in ritual ceremony. That was when she decided she had to leave. If she stayed any longer, she would lose what little of her soul remained. Mirembe sold off her perfume stock, packed her things, and bought a matatu ticket. The journey back to the village was long. The dusty roads curled like memory lanes, each bump a reminder of the life she had abandoned. When she stepped off the bus at the trading center near her home, heads turned. Whispers filled the air. Some pointed. Others looked away. She walked the rest of the distance barefoot. She had sold her shoes for food weeks ago. At the gate of her grandmother's compound, she paused. Her heart beat so loudly it drowned the chirping of the birds. Then the door creaked open. Mama Nafula stood there, her face etched with both time and sorrow. For a moment, neither spoke. Then the old woman opened her arms. "Mirembe." The girl fell into her grandmother's embrace, sobbing like the rain on a tin roof. That evening, under the same mango tree where prayers had been whispered and tears shed, Mirembe told her story. She spoke of the nightclub, the modeling lie, the parties, the night she ran, the streets, and the stall. She left nothing out. When she finished, silence hung heavy. Then, Mama Nafula held her hand tightly. "The city stole your innocence, child. But not your soul. That you brought back yourself. That means everything. The next months were quiet but healing. Mirembe helped in the garden, fetching water from the borehole, planting cassava, and helping children at the local school braid their hair. Slowly, the community began to accept her return. Some judged, some whispered, but many, especially the young girls, listened when she spoke. She began to share her story with the schoolgirls every Saturday under the tree. She told them the truth, not to shame them but to warn them, to make sure that none of them would fall for the same dream that had almost destroyed her. One day, a local NGO worker passed by and heard her speak. Inspired by her honesty and courage, they offered her a chance to lead a campaign called Lights of Truth, aimed at teaching young African girls about the dangers of trafficking, exploitation, and false city dreams. Mirembe took the job, not for the money, but for redemption. Years later, she would become a symbol, not of failure, but of resilience. Her face, once painted on nightclub flyers, was now featured on posters that read, "She left for the lights and found darkness, but she brought back the light."